The espresso machine hissed as if warning me to turn back now. I ignored it, watching steam curl like whispers above my cup, the same way rumors had coiled through our office halls for weeks. "Ms. Rivera?" The barista's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Your oat milk latte." I thanked him with a smile that felt too tight across my face. I'd chosen this coffee shop carefully, far enough from the office that no one would accidentally stumble in, close enough to make the invitation seem casual. I checked my watch. 3 minutes until he was due. The bell above the door chimed. Harold Chen entered, removing his designer sunglasses despite the overcast day. His imposing presence commanded attention even in simple weekend clothes, dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Our eyes met. For a moment, something like uncertainty flashed across his face before it hardened into the confident mask I recognized from quarterly meetings. He was a legend in our industry, the man who built Phoenix Media from nothing into a digital empire. My boss. And as of 3 weeks ago, the father of the woman sleeping with my husband. "Elise," he said, approaching my table. "I have to admit, I was surprised by your invitation." I gestured to the empty chair across from me. "I thought it was time we had a conversation, Harold." He settled into the seat, studying me with the same calculating gaze he used during negotiations. "About?" I took a measured sip of my latte, then set it down carefully, making sure my wedding ring caught the light. "About your daughter, my husband, and the future of everything we've built, 3 months earlier." "Do we have to go to this?" Drew asked, adjusting his tie in our bedroom mirror. "You know I hate these corporate things." I smoothed the lapels of his suit jacket from behind, catching his eyes in the reflection. After 12 years together, 7 of them married, I could read the true anxiety behind his complaint. "Yes, we do," I said gently. "The Phoenix Media Winter Gala is the networking event of the year. Besides, you look devastatingly handsome in that suit." Drew's smile didn't reach his eyes. At 38, my husband still had the boyish charm that had first attracted me to him in graduate school. Warm brown eyes, a disarming smile, and a quiet intelligence that made him brilliant at his work designing educational video games. But in recent months, something had changed. A restlessness had crept in, manifesting in late nights at his studio and a growing distance I couldn't quite bridge. "Will Harold be making one of his infamous speeches?" Drew asked, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "Of course. 45 minutes minimum on how Phoenix Media is revolutionizing digital content, while the rest of us try not to fall asleep in our champagne." Drew laughed, a genuine one this time. "At least the food is always good." "And the open bar," I added, reaching for my earrings. "Which you'll need to escort me away from if I start telling marketing what I really think about their new campaign strategy." Deal. The Phoenix Media headquarters had been transformed for the evening. The minimalist lobby now sparkled with tasteful winter decorations, and soft jazz floated through the air. As marketing director, I'd helped plan the event but delegated the execution to my team. Now I could focus on what these gatherings were really about, reading the currents of power and ambition that flowed beneath the pleasant conversation. Harold Chen stood at the center of it all naturally. At 62, he commanded respect not through volume but through presence. He'd built Phoenix Media from a small digital publication into a multimedia conglomerate through brilliance, strategic vision, and, according to office gossip, a willingness to step over anyone who stood in his way. "Elise." Harold broke away from a conversation when he spotted me. "There's my marketing genius. And Drew. Good to see you." Drew shook Harold's hand with the slightly uncomfortable air he always had around my boss. "Congratulations on the Webby nomination. The documentary series was outstanding. All credit goes to our content team," Harold said with practiced modesty. "But speaking of outstanding work, Elise, your campaign for the educational platform exceeded all projections. We need to discuss expansion plans soon." I beamed despite myself. After 8 years at Phoenix, I'd earned my position through relentless work and creative strategy. Harold was a demanding boss, but he recognized talent and rewarded results. "I've already started outlining some ideas," I said, International markets are showing promising— Dad! A young woman appeared at Harold's side, tall and striking in a simple black dress. Sorry I'm late. The flight from Boston was delayed. Harold's face transformed with genuine warmth, an expression so rare that several nearby executives did double takes. Mira, everyone, this is my daughter, Mira. The young woman smiled politely as Harold continued with unmistakable pride. Just finished her MBA at Harvard. Top of her class, naturally. I'd heard rumors of Harold's daughter but had never met her. In his typically private fashion, Harold rarely mentioned family. The young woman beside him had his sharp cheekbones and analytical gaze, but where Harold's expressions were carefully controlled, Mira's face was animated with a vibrant energy. Mira, this is Elise Rivera, our marketing director, and her husband, Drew Kaplan. Nice to meet you both, Mira said, shaking my hand first. When she turned to Drew, I noticed a slight hesitation, a moment where their eyes met just a beat too long. Drew designs educational games, I explained, filling the sudden silence. His company partnered with Phoenix on the learning platform I've been marketing. Really? Mira's interest seemed to intensify. I focused on educational technology for my thesis project. I'd love to hear more about your work. Drew, usually quiet at these functions, began describing his latest project with unexpected animation. I watched, sipping my champagne, as Mira asked insightful questions that drew him out further. Impressive, isn't she? Harold said quietly beside me. Starting her internship in strategic development next week. I wanted her to earn her place elsewhere first, but now I can finally bring her into the family business. She seems very bright, I agreed, a small knot forming in my stomach that I couldn't quite explain. Elise, there's someone you need to meet, Harold said, gesturing toward a silver-haired man across the room. The CMO from Archer Publishing. They're interested in our international approach. As Harold led me away, I glanced back to see Drew and Mira still deep in conversation, their heads bent slightly toward each other like conspirators sharing secrets. The weeks that followed brought subtle changes. Drew seemed more energetic, more engaged. He mentioned joining a new gym, bought new clothes, started getting haircuts more frequently. I told myself I was happy to see him breaking out of his slump. At work, I occasionally spotted Mira in the hallways or cafeteria. She was smart and hardworking by all accounts, quickly earning respect beyond her status as the boss's daughter. When we crossed paths, she was unfailingly friendly, asking about Drew with what seemed like genuine interest in his projects. She's got Harold's business instincts without the ruthlessness, my assistant. Naomi commented one day after Mira had stopped by my office to ask advice about marketing approaches. Everyone likes her? I agreed, surprised to find I meant it. In another circumstance, I might have taken the young woman under my wing. Not everyone, Naomi said with a conspiratorial smile. Vivian in legal thinks she's too perfect. Says there must be a skeleton somewhere? I laughed. Vivian thinks everyone has skeletons. Usually she's right, Naomi pointed out. One evening, I stayed late finalizing a pitch. The office had emptied hours ago, leaving that peculiar silence of abandoned workspaces. The occasional distant ping of an elevator, the hum of air conditioning, the soft glow of security lights. Walking toward the parking garage, I passed a conference room where a light still burned. Through the glass wall, I saw Mira surrounded by presentation boards and open laptops. She looked up, spotted me, and waved me in with a weary smile. Working late? I asked, stepping inside. Finalizing a proposal for the board meeting tomorrow, she said, running a hand through her hair. Mr. Chen expects it to be perfect. The slip humanized her. For a moment, I saw not the polished Harvard graduate, but a daughter trying to impress her demanding father. Harold has impossibly high standards, I agreed. I've been there. Mira gave me a grateful look. How do you handle it? The pressure? I remind myself that I earned my place here, I said, surprising myself with the candor. And sometimes I remind him too, she laughed. I'm still working on that part. I found myself sitting down across from her. Any particular sticking points with the proposal? The market positioning section. I can't quite articulate why our approach is distinctive without sounding like every other tech company. For the next hour, I helped her refine her messaging, drawing on my years of experience crafting Phoenix's brand voice. As we worked, I discovered she had brilliant ideas beneath her uncertainty, innovative approaches to reaching younger audiences that even our team hadn't fully explored. "You should present these to my department sometime," I told her sincerely. "We could use fresh perspectives like this." Mira beamed. "Really? That would be amazing." As we packed up to leave, she hesitated. "Elise, thanks for this. It means a lot, especially from you. From me? Drew talks about you all the time, how smart you are, how everyone at Phoenix respects you. I was intimidated to meet you, honestly." "Drew talks about me?" I asked, a strange feeling settling in my chest. "When we run into each other at the gym," she explained. "We usually grab coffee afterward. He's been giving me advice about navigating startup culture versus corporate environments." "Right," I said, my voice suddenly wooden. "The new gym." Drew hadn't mentioned running into Mira. Once. Not during our dinners, not during weekend breakfasts, not during any of the moments when he'd told me about his day. The omission hung between us now like a third presence in the room. "Well," I said, gathering my things, "good luck with your presentation tomorrow." "Harold will be impressed." I left before she could respond. The click of my heels on marble echoing through the empty hallway like a countdown to something I couldn't yet name. The signs accumulated, like evidence in a case I didn't want to prosecute. Drew's phone buzzing with texts he would check with his body angled away from me. Late-night project meetings that left his hair smelling faintly of unfamiliar perfume. The sudden password on his laptop. The way he would sometimes look through me rather than at me during conversations. His mind clearly elsewhere. I told myself it was nothing. Stress from his upcoming game launch. Perhaps, or my own insecurity inventing problems where none existed. We'd been together since our 20s, built a life, supported each other's careers. Drew wasn't the type to have an affair, but doubt, once planted, grows in the dark. On a Thursday afternoon, Harold called me into his office unexpectedly. "Elise," he said when I entered, "I need you in San Francisco next week." "The Westbridge account is wavering," I frowned. "That's James's territory. I'm scheduled to present the Q4 strategy on Wednesday." "James is good, but you're better," Harold said flatly. "Reschedule the presentation." "Westbridge is worth 10 times that internal meeting." I started to argue but stopped myself. This was how Harold operated. Decisive shifts of priority with the expectation of immediate compliance. And he wasn't wrong about the importance of the Westbridge account. "I'll make it work," I said. Harold nodded, already moving on mentally. "Book the Monday flight. You'll meet with their CMO Tuesday morning." That evening, I told Drew about the sudden trip. San Francisco? He looked up from his tablet, an unreadable expression crossing his face. "For how long?" "Just until Wednesday night. I should be back late, so don't wait up." Drew nodded, returning to his screen. "Sounds good. No disappointment, no complaints about the short notice, no suggestions to extend the trip into a long weekend getaway like he might have done in the past. Just flat acceptance." I watched him from across our living room, this man I'd loved for 12 years, and felt a cold certainty settle into my bones. He was relieved I was going. That night, I lay awake beside him, listening to his too even breathing. When I was certain he was asleep, I carefully reached for his phone on the nightstand. I'd never checked it before, had prided myself on the trust between us, but I entered his birthday and the screen unlocked. The text messages confirmed everything. Dozens of exchanges with MC, some innocent discussions about work and technology, others laden with subtext, inside jokes, plans to meet. Nothing explicitly damning, but the intimacy between the lines was unmistakable. I replaced the phone and stared at the ceiling, tears sliding silently into my hair. By morning, grief had hardened into resolve. I called Naomi from the car. "I need you to tell everyone I've left for San Francisco. But the flight isn't until—" "I'm not going," I cut in. "But no one needs to know that. If Harold asks, tell him I'm following up with the Westbridge team as planned. Elise, what's going on? I took a deep breath. I just need a couple of days off the grid. Personal matter. Can you cover for me? After a pause, Naomi said, Of course. Is everything okay? It will be, I told her, wishing I believed it. Instead of going to the office, I drove to a small hotel downtown and checked in. From there, I called a private investigator recommended by Vivian from legal, who had apparently needed similar services during her divorce. The irony wasn't lost on me. I just need confirmation, I told the investigator. Times, places, photographs if possible. By Monday afternoon, I had what I needed. The investigator's voice was professionally neutral as he described following Drew from his office to an upscale apartment building, how he'd used a key to enter a unit on the 12th floor, how Mira Chen had arrived 30 minutes later, how neither had emerged until morning. I thanked him, ended the call, and sat motionless in my hotel room as the afternoon light shifted across the wall. I had expected to cry, to scream, to feel something beyond this strange, calm clarity. Instead, I found myself thinking like a marketing strategist, analyzing the situation, evaluating options, formulating a response. By evening, I knew what I had to do. I checked out of the hotel and drove to a different coffee shop, one where I'd once met Harold for an informal performance review. I took out my phone and composed a text to the man whose daughter was sleeping with my husband. Harold, I need to speak with you privately. Coffee at Reverie, 9 a.m. tomorrow? It's important. His response came quickly. Is this about Westbridge? No, personal matter. Please come alone. There was a longer pause before his reply appeared. I'll be there. I put away my phone and ordered another coffee, watching the world continue around me as if everything hadn't just fallen apart. The morning of the meeting with Harold, I dressed with deliberate care, charcoal pantsuit, subtle makeup, hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, professional armor. I arrived early, securing a table in the corner where we wouldn't be easily overheard. The folder containing the investigator's report and photographs sat on the table before me like a loaded gun. When Harold entered at precisely 9, his expression shifted from businesslike to concerned as he took in my appearance, clearly not in San Francisco, clearly not focused on the Westbridge account. After he sat down, I pushed the folder toward him wordlessly. What's this? He asked. Open it. He did, his face impassive as he leafed through the photographs. Drew entering the building. Mira following. Timestamps in the corner. The morning after. Page after page of evidence. When he finished, he closed the folder and looked at me, his expression unreadable. I see. Do you? My voice remained steady. Your daughter is having an affair with my husband. Harold steepled his fingers. And you're bringing this to me instead of addressing it with Drew because I wanted to see your face when you realized your perfect daughter isn't who you think she is, I said. And because whatever happens next affects Phoenix media. How so? If this gets out, the boss's daughter sleeping with a married contractor, it creates exactly the kind of toxic workplace dynamic you've always claimed Phoenix doesn't tolerate. Harold's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Are you threatening to create a scandal, Elise? I'm pointing out reality. Affairs between colleagues rarely stay secret long. The espresso machine hissed in the background as Harold studied me. For the first time in 8 years, I felt like I could see behind his calculated exterior to the actual calculations taking place. What do you want? He finally asked. What makes you think I want something? Because you're too smart for simple revenge. You arranged this meeting for a purpose. I leaned forward slightly. I want 3 things. First, the London office. You've been sitting on that decision for months, and we both know I'm the right person to establish our European headquarters. Harold's eyebrows rose slightly, but he didn't interrupt. Second, I want the budget for my department increased by 30%, with autonomy over allocation. And third, I want Mira transferred to the Los Angeles office, effective immediately. Harold sat back in his chair. You're using this situation for professional advancement? I'm ensuring that when my marriage ends, my career doesn't suffer collateral damage, I corrected him. Everything I'm asking for, I've earned. This just accelerates the timeline. And if I refuse? I met his gaze steadily. Then I file for divorce tomorrow, citing the affair, and we see how the board reacts when the details inevitably leak. Your daughter's reputation, your family values image, the company's HR policies, all under scrutiny. You've thought this through, Harold said, a hint of admiration mixing with the anger in his voice. I learned from watching you, I replied. Make decisive moves when you have leverage. Harold was silent for a long moment, his fingers tapping once, twice against the closed folder. Then he reached for his phone. Caroline, he said to his assistant, clear my schedule until noon. And set up a call with the head of our Los Angeles office. He ended the call and looked at me. The London position and budget increase will be announced next week. I nodded, relief and bitterness mingling in my chest. And Mira? She'll be informed of her transfer today. A special project that requires her immediate attention. Thank you. Harold's eyes hardened. Don't thank me, Elise. This isn't a favor. It's a business transaction. Exactly, I said, standing to leave. One that benefits us both. Harold remained seated as I gathered my things. What will you do about Drew? I paused. That's between him and me. He doesn't know you're here. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. No, and he won't hear it from you. Harold nodded once, an acknowledgement of the implicit agreement between us. I turned to go, but his voice stopped me. Elise, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I looked back at him. This man who had been my mentor and adversary, who was now connected to me through the most painful chapter of my life. I know, I said. That's why I came to you first. As I walked out of the coffee shop into the bright morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Drew. Miss you. How's San Francisco? I slipped the phone back into my pocket without responding and headed toward the Phoenix Media Building. There would be time for that conversation later. For now, I had work to do. 3 months later, I stood at the window of my temporary London apartment, watching rain streak the glass as the city lights blurred below. My phone chimed with an incoming video call. Naomi, checking in from New York. How's the weather? She asked when I answered. Exactly what you'd expect, I said, turning the camera to show the gray sky. Perpetually damp with occasional downpours. Better than here. We're having the worst heat wave in decades. She fanned herself dramatically before her expression turned serious. The London office looks amazing, by the way. Everyone's talking about how quickly you've got it running. Necessity is the mother of efficiency, I said with a small smile. How are things there? Naomi hesitated. Harold announced a new gaming education division yesterday. Drew's company is the primary contractor. I nodded, feeling a distant twinge rather than the sharp pain such news would have caused months ago. Makes business sense. Drew's platform is still the best in the industry. You okay with that? It's not my company, I said simply. After Harold and I had reached our agreement that morning at the coffee shop, events had unfolded with surprising speed. Mira had been transferred to Los Angeles within days. My promotion and the London assignment were announced the following week. The divorce proceedings had been quick and relatively painless. Drew hadn't contested anything when faced with the evidence. What had surprised me most was the conversation with Mira that I hadn't planned. She had appeared at my office, doorway the evening before her departure, eyes red-rimmed but chin raised. I won't apologize, she'd said without preamble. Not because I don't think I should, but because it wouldn't mean anything to you. You're right, I'd replied, continuing to pack my office belongings. It wouldn't. She'd stepped inside then, closing the door behind her. But I want you to know it wasn't about you. It wasn't about hurting you or taking something from you. I'd put down the book I was holding. Then what was it about, Mira? Enlighten me. It was about finding someone who saw me, not my father's daughter. Not the Harvard MBA, just me. Her voice had cracked slightly. Drew did that. While he was married to me, I'd pointed out. Yes. She hadn't flinched from the accusation. I'm not justifying it. I wanted you to know I never hated you. I actually admired you. Still do, in a way. I'd studied her. Young, brilliant, so certain she'd found something real in the ruins of my marriage. You know he's done this before, I'd said finally. Before we were married. The woman was his colleague then, too. Uncertainty had flickered across her face. He told me about that. He said it was different with me. I'd nodded. He told her the same thing. Mira had stared at me, processing this information against her own certainties. I could almost see the battle between what she wanted to believe and what she feared might be true. For what it's worth, I'd said, returning to my packing, I hope you find someone who sees you. Just make sure they're not already committed to seeing someone else. Now, months later, with an ocean between us, I wondered occasionally how that story had played out. Had Mira discovered the pattern for herself? Had Drew followed her to Los Angeles? Or had distance revealed the affair for what it was, a convenient excitement rather than a lasting connection? Elise, you still there? Naomi's voice pulled me back to the present. Sorry, just thinking. Any other news I should know? Naomi grinned. Harold's daughter quit last week. Apparently, she's starting her own educational technology company. I felt a surprised laugh escape me. Good for her. And, Naomi continued, the London success has the board talking about expanding further into Europe. Harold mentioned Berlin as a possibility. Did he now? He specifically said you'd be the one to head it up if it happens. I turned back toward the rain-streaked window. Below, people hurried along the sidewalks, umbrellas bobbing like dark flowers. I'd built something here in 3 short months. A vibrant office, a solid team. The beginnings of a European presence for Phoenix that would shape the company's future. Tell Harold I look forward to discussing it when I'm back next month, I said. Berlin could be interesting. After ending the call, I made myself a cup of tea and returned to the window. Tonight, I had dinner plans with the head of a British media company. Strictly business, though his invitation had suggested he might be open to more. For the first time since everything had fallen apart, I was considering saying yes to something beyond work. My phone buzzed with a text message. Drew, finalizing the divorce papers tomorrow. Wanted to say I'm sorry again. For everything. I looked at the message for a long moment, then set the phone down without responding. Some conversations were finished. Some coffees you only needed to have once. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city glistened under clearing skies, refreshed and waiting.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.